Hello everyone. I hope you are fine. You are welcome to Learn English Online channel. Today we're going to study a lesson of grammar. It is the passive voice. Do you think that the passive voice is difficult to understand? I am sure that after watching this video you will change your mind. So, are you ready to learn? Let's start. Look at this picture. This is Jane. Jane is a student. Can you guess what does Jane do every night? That's great. Jane revises her lessons every night. What we are going to do now is to divide this sentence. Normally, we can have 3 to 4 parts in a sentence. In the sentence, we have 4 parts. Part number 1 is Jane, and it is the subject of the sentence. Part number 2 is great, revises, and it is the verb. Part number 3 is her lessons, and it is the object of the sentence. And finally, part number 4 is, that's right, every night. And let's call it the rest of the sentence. So the sentence is in the active voice. What we need to do now is to change the sentence from the active into the passive voice. How to do this? Don't worry, it is very easy. The first thing we're going to try is to change the order of the parts in the first sentence. Jane revises her lessons every night. So part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. We're not going to follow this order. We're going to start by part number 3, her lessons, or better say, the lessons. Then part number 2, revises, or the correct answer here is revised. Don't worry about this change. We're going to talk about it later. Next is part number 1, Jane. And finally, part number 4, every night. So the sentence now is the lessons revised Jane every night. Do you think that this is a correct sentence? Of course not. Well, there are 2 missing words. Can you guess the first one? Right. The lessons are revised. Are. And the second missing word is by. The lessons are revised by Jane every night. So now the sentence is correct. And this is the passive voice, okay, of the first sentence. Jane revises her lessons every night. Now, let's talk about the main changes. So we talked about the change in the parts. Okay, we start by 3, 2, 1, and 4. And then we have are and by. Okay, let's talk about this word are. What is this word? Its nature is, it is a verb. That's good. Which verb is it? It's the verb to be. Are, the verb to be. What tense is this? Great, that's simple present. But why simple present, not simple past, or future simple, present continuous? Well, look at this. There is a relationship between the tense, sometimes the form, of to be, and the verb in the active voice. Revises. This verb is in simple present. That's why we have to be in simple present. Let's imagine that the verb in the active voice is in the past continuous. So to be must be in the past continuous. If the verb is in the future simple, so to be must be in the future simple. If the verb is in bare infinitive, so to be must be in bare infinitive. To be in present simple, we have 3 cases. The are, that's great. Is, and are. I am. He is. She is. It is. We are. You are. And they are. Next is the verb revised. This form here is what we call the past participle. Why the past participle? In fact, in the passive voice, the rule says that the verb or the main verb in the sentence of the active voice must be in the past participle. This is the rule, okay? To form the past participle, we have to consider the following. If we have regular verbs, then we add ed, d, or ied. We're going to see some examples later. And one of them, of course, is revised. If the verbs are irregular, then there is a list of irregular verbs to learn by heart. Okay? Now, let's look at example number 2. This is Alfred. Alfred is thinking about something. Can you guess? Right. Alfred is thinking about his keys. In fact, Alfred lost his keys last Monday. Alfred lost his keys last Monday. What we're going to do now is to divide the sentence again into how many parts? Here, that's great, we have 4 parts. Part number 1 is Alfred, and it is the subject of the sentence. Part number 2 is lost, and it is, you remember? Great, it is the verb. Part number 3 is his keys, and it is the object of the sentence. And finally, last Monday, as we had with example number 1, it is the rest of the sentence. Okay? So this sentence now is in the active voice. What we need to do to change the sentence from the active into the passive voice. So the first thing we start with is to change the order. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, but we start by which number? Do you remember? Great, that's number 3, his keys, or better say, the keys. Then number 2, lost. Number 1, Alfred. And finally, number 4, last Monday. The keys lost Alfred last Monday. This is not a correct sentence. To make it correct, we need 2 missing words. Can you guess them? Great. The keys were lost. And the second word, by Alfred, by. The keys were lost by Alfred last Monday. Now the sentence is in the passive voice. But we've got a new word. It is the word were. What is the nature of this word? That's correct. It is a verb. And which verb is it? Yes, it is the verb to be again. But is it simple present? No. It is simple past. Why simple past this time, not simple present? Do you remember the first example? Simple present because revises is in simple present. And here, the verb in the active voice, lost, is in simple past. So to be must be in simple past. If the verb in the active voice is in the future perfect simple, then to be must be in the future perfect simple. If the verb in the active voice is in the present continuous, so to be must be in the present continuous. So the tense or form of the verb to be always depends on the tense or form of the verb in the active voice. So to be in simple past, we have 2 main cases. Do you know them? Right, they are was and were. I was. He was. She was. It was. We were. You were. And they were. Next is lost. It seems that there is no change. Alfred lost. The keys were lost. But in fact, there is a change. Do you remember with the first example we had revised, and we said that's past participle. It's again here the past participle. The past participle of the verb lose. Lose in simple past, lost, past participle, lost. Okay? That's why we see that lost, it hasn't changed. But in fact, there is a change. So the past participle again depends on the type of the verb. You remember the 2 types? Right? They are regular verbs, that edd or ied, and irregular verbs like the example lose, and which is lost in the past participle. right? So now let's form, let's say, rule for the passive voice. The first thing we start with is, you remember, is to divide the sentence. And I said before, we can have 3 to 4 parts. The first part is the subject. The second part is, correct, the verb. The third part is the object. Sometimes we have the sentences with 3 parts: subject, verb, and object. And sometimes we have extra information after the object. And as we had with the first 2 examples, let's call that the rest of the sentence. Now, what we need to do is to change the sentence from the active into the passive voice. The first thing to consider is, to remember, to change the order. Instead of 1, 2, 3, and 4, we start by number. Do you remember? Good. Number 3. After that, we need a very important thing. It is the verb to be. The verb to be, and it is very important again, should all the time be in the tense, and sometimes the form, of the verb in the active voice. If the verb in the active voice is in simple present, to be must be in simple present. If the verb in the active voice is in simple past, to be must be in simple past. If the verb in the active voice is in the future simple, to be must be in the future simple. If the verb in the active voice is in bare infinitive, to be must also be in bare infinitive. Okay? So we don't have one form for the verb to be. Next is number 2. And it is important to mention that the verb, which is number 2, we change it. Okay? It becomes the past participle. And the past participle depends on the type of the verb. If we have regular verbs, we can add ed, like example visit, visited, d, revise, revised, and ied for study, studied. Irregular verbs examples, we have go, gone, pay, paid, have, had. So just from these examples, we can see that there is no rule, okay? It means that we should learn by heart the list of irregular verbs. After number 2, we have the word by plus number 1. But it is very important to pay attention to the following. We can say, for example, by I. This is wrong. The correct answer is by me. We can say by she, but we say by her. We can say by he, but we say by him. Okay? So, I is what? It is a subject pronoun. When we have subject pronouns, most of them, they change. So, by plus, we need an object pronoun. So, if we have I, it becomes me, by me. If the subject pronoun is you, no change. We say by you. If it is he, we say by him. If the subject pronoun is she, we say by her. If it is it, there's no change. We say by it. If the subject pronoun is we say by us. And if it is they, we say by them. Okay? And finally is part number 4, if we have it, of course, in the sentence. Right? I hope that you could understand the passive voice. I wonder if you have any questions. Don't hesitate, please, to write all questions, all comments, okay? And I will be glad to answer all of your, let's say, questions and comments. In fact, in this video, I didn't mention all the things that concern the passive voice, because this is part number 1. It means that there is part number 2. But I am sure if you could understand this, part number 2 is very easy. This is the backbone of the passive voice. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. See you next time.